Siyabonga kakhulu kubaphathi bohlelo MEC Hlomuka ophinde asiphathele okwesikhashana lomnyango kwi-province waka Arts, Sports and Culture. Sibingelele nomphathi wohlelo uBudmandla. Sifisa ukubingelela ngenkulu inhlonipho kuma ministers akhona, Minister in the presidency, Minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, Minister of Police, Minister Ndosi, Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Minister Zizi Kodwa, Deputy Minister of Health, Dr. Dlomo. We also acknowledge members of the Executive Council of KwaZulu-Natal, MEC of Health, MEC Nomusa, Opinde Abangu, Deputy Chairperson of the African National Congress, the MEC of Education, MEC Fraser, MEC of Agriculture, MEC Zuma, MEC Human Settlement and Public Works, MEC Nkosi, and MEC for Sports, Arts and Culture in Gauteng, Ms. Matsupe. Bizwa kanjalo ke MEC. Former ministers that are present, former Minister Jeff Radebe, Nomama Mrs. Radebe, Opinde Abe Excellency, former Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Dr. Mkhize, a former Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, who's also an ambassador, Mr. Ndebele. Siyafisa ukubingelela all ambassadors and high commissioners and leaders of missions that are present. eThekwini Mayor Councillor Kaunda, members of the Executive Council of the National Assembly, members of the Provincial Legislature, all mayors that are present and councillors, Director Generals that are present, led by the Director General, Dr. Mkhize, Deputy Provincial Commissioner, heads of departments, umndeni ngokukhethekile umndeni wakaGumede nomndeni wakaNgema, siyabingelela ngenkulu inhlonipho kuzihlobo zonke ezikhona zakwaNgema nezakwaGumede nabangani, the international guests that are present, the leaders of political parties that are present, business leaders, creative arts industry present. Sizwile ukuthi bakhona obabu Asheli Mhlophe, abo Hostix Mabuse, abo Leledi, abo Mam Yvonne, abo Butimzwakhe Mbuli, bo Chiko Twala, Lady Smith Black Mambazo, baningi kakhulu angeke sikwazi ukubabala bonke kodwa siyafisa ukubingelela kubona bonke abaholi bakalizwi nawo bonke nje umphakathi okhona including members of the media. Nizongixolela ke ngoba I was taught in the diplomatic school lapho engangi-appointwe khona umama uNkosazana Dlamini-Zuma as an ambassador ukuthi ayikho into ekuthiwa protocol observed. We observe a protocol. Ayikho nje asiyazi ukuthi yavelaphi. Ngiyafisa ukubingelela ngentambama yanamhlanje. Sihlangene lapha namhlanje with our hearts that are heavy, with the burden of grief and the sorrow as we bid farewell to the son of the soil, one of our global icons in the performing arts industry, a towering maestro who carried our flag aloft on the world stage. For as long as humanity has existed, one of the mysteries that philosophers, scientists, and poets, sages and prophets have been grappling with, including bonke abefundisi, is the enigma of the cycle of life and death. As such, as we walk this earth, one of the morbid certainties that haunt us every day of our lives is when is our appointment with our Maker. And this is why we are here, because uMadlokovu bathe omkhulu mabamemeza wasabela. Kuthe uma ngabe uNkulunkulu embiza washo wathi eyakhe incwadi seyiqediwe. It is because of this reason that when a person of Dr. Ngema dies, superlatives such as the giant, a trailblazer, a luminary, a towering icon, a game changer, a larger-than-life personality, everybody is thrown around to describe him. However, it is fitting that the passing away of Dr. Mbongeni Ngema, we have lost a towering giant. For greatness was his middle name. We have seen and we've heard everybody who came here speaking of discipline, speaking of greatness, speaking of excellence. Dr. Ngema was not born with a silver spoon in his mouth. His journey is a typical rags to riches tale, yet he departs this world completely immortalized. No number of adjectives can adequately describe Dr. Ngema's genius. Program directors, the past week have been like a horrible nightmare from which all of us had hoped we would be woken up and somebody would say, no, agloni qiniso. None amongst us wanted to believe the various media platforms, even the calls that we received when they repeatedly informed us of the sad news of Madlokovu's untimely death in a car accident. And indeed, our lives have been shattered. The outpouring messages of condolences and support from all over the world confirmed that Madlokovu, as he was affectionately known, did not only belong to his family and South Africans, but he belonged to all humanity and the globe. This is the reaffirmation of ancient wisdom as captured in the Chinua Achebe's Hills of Savannah, that a cock that crows in the morning belongs to one household, but its voice is the property of all of the neighbors or of all the neighborhood. Sonke sisuke sazi ukuthi maselikhala ke lelo qhude sekuyisikhathi sokuthi sesizovuka, kodwa kube kuyiqhude elibelonga to one family. So was the life of Madlokovu. That he died after delivering a moving eulogy at the funeral of his close friend and business associate, with whom he had worked with for 30 years, testified the cruel nature of this fate. As if he had a premonition that death was stalking him along the way on his way back to Durban. In his eulogy, Madlokovu spoke of how Mam Sheila's death has taken a part of him or a part of her. And that is what Madlokovu said, uma ngabe ebeka amazwi eduduza umndeni. A few hours later, after he had uttered these present words, he perished in the horrible accident, leaving our universe spirit of a star that shone the brightest. Today we gather here. We have the divested of a global impresario and thespian who stood shoulders above others as a composer, a musician, a playwright, a theater producer, a choreographer, a lyricist, a roll into one, as we have heard many describing him. That he could wear all these hats with effortless ease, and as we heard abanye bekhuluma la, affirming Madlokovu's genius and the architecture his longtime musical director and band leader, Ubabu Eddie Matibe, speaking at his memorial service at the Playhouse on Wednesday, acclaimed, and he said, "Such geniuses like Madlogovu come once in a particular lifetime." And ilokho sikubonayo namhlanje, just like Ray Charles, the greatest musical genius of all, Madlogovu never worked in just one style, but he blended and beautified all that he had touched in his life. He was at home in Tloati. He was at home in New York, in the Stockholm, in Cote d'Ivoire, and in California. His virtuosity was felt by the likes and the record producer, the songwriters, and the arranger Quincy Jones, who became his friend and actor, comedian and author Whoopi Goldberg as well, to name the two. He was one with the rural communities. Umangabe semakhaya, he was there effortlessly, ekhuluma nabo bonke abantu, ahlale phansi kwesihlahla, akwazi ukukhuluma ulimi labantu. Uma ngabe kufanele akhulume with the other classes, he was at home and he was able to converse, such as the level of refinement and the charisma and sophistication that we've learned and we've seen in Madlogovu. But equally, he was at home Kuma Nazareth Baptist Church and within the Zionist churches. And siyabonga umfundisi wethu wase Nazareth ukuthi akhumbuze indlu yakithi obaba bethu ukuthi kufanele siyeke ngempela lelichilo lokuthi kusekhona abantu besifazane abahlukumezwayo. uMadlogovu was also a man about town and could charm a fish out of water, as captured in his timeless classic Stimela Sasezola. Such was his level of adaptability. But to understand Madlogovu's repertoire as a musician, a theater producer, and a composer, one has to delve deep into the history. That he was born in Verulam in 1955, at the height of apartheid repression, when inhumane legislation such as Group Areas Act had been passed. 5 years before he was born, shows how since his birth, his life was interwoven with the tapestry of the struggle and the suffrage of the African people. And I agree with my comrade and my leader, Usis Nomagugu, ukuthi you can never talk about impilo yakaMadlogovu without talking about inhlangano yakhe abeyithanda, but also the liberation struggle of this country, a time of great upheaval in our liberation history. This was when the communities suffered untold humiliation, when they were forcefully removed from their land of birth, just because they were Africans. So we need not to understand the writings about our history, but we must understand how uMadlogovu had to live the life of a black person in this country of the time. So was that able to be transported to the arts and the work that he was able to command. Needless to say that Dr. Mbongeni Ngema's family was removed from Verulam because they were classified as blacks, and that township was then classified as an Indian community only, setting off a chain of events in the life which would find expression in artistic production of Ubaba Mbongeni Ngema. As a result of this grand plan of separate development, more than 6 decades later, long after the architects of apartheid have died, we are still grappling with the impact made by this on our society. And I do wish to also emphasize the point that was emphasized by my comrades here, that it is such ironic that sometimes in this country, Some people want us to forget about the past. Some people don't want us to remember where we come from. Because if we do not remember where we come from, we would not know where are we supposed to be going to. So Madlogovu's life was inspired by stories of heroism that were told in the rolling hills Zasentrati, where his forefathers came from. This is also a powerful reminder of what shaped the political consciousness and the outlook of uMadlogovu. Dr. Ngema was also inspired by the heroic exploits of one of his more illustrious forebears, who fought bravely in the epic of Isandlwana battle. His great-grandfather, uSigcwele Ngema, of the indomitable Ingoba Makhosi regiment of King Qetshwayo, was among those who, in the face of death, shouted eSandlwana, "Uyadela wena osulapho." And bengitshela uMC wami la uHlomuka ukuthi mhlambe kuzobaleka ukuthi in the memory of uMadlogovu we relive as we go to eSandlwana ngomhla ka-27 sikwazi ukuthi celebrate uMadlogovu there, but also simkhumbuze nokuthi ubaba wakhe umkhulu wakhe uSigcwele Ngema nabanye bafela khona laphayana ibutho laseNgoba Makhosi elaka King Qetshwayo. These warriors did not cower the shadow of death, but they relished the opportunity to fight, to defend our land. And we heard Obab Chikotwala here talking about how fearless Ubaba Mbongeni Ngema was, and as if he always preached that no retreat, no surrender. That was too mild a word for Ubaba Ngema. When we look at the work that was being done, but also looking at the warriors, the legends, the like of which the world has never seen before, thus we see in the bravery of Madlogovu that is among the very few who have come closest to emulate the feat of Ingoba Makhosi. He took over the baton from the pathfinders of the struggle of liberation, but he used the arts as a weapon of choice in his arsenal in communicating and relaying the message and the pain and the suffering of our Black people and the communities. He demonstrates this and how complex and interplay our history is, and the people's lives and the experiences that our people have had to feel. But what made Madlogovu a veritable gem is that he was a self-taught, and he was a product and the hallowed halls of not formal education of our hallowed walls, but he was self-educating himself and sharpening his tools at all time. As history tells us that Dr. Ngema spent 3 months in a garage at a house in the doyen of the African theater, Obaba Gibson Kenta. If he had given up at that time, maybe he would not have scaled the heights of the global excellence and the arts and the industry. And uma ngabe ngempela akazange ahlale egarage la kaBaba Gibson Kente, akwazi ukuthi asharpenishe ama-tools wakhe nomsebenzi wakhe, mhlawumbe ngabe akakwazanga ukuthi umsebenzi wakhe uzukhuphuke ubonakale kanje. Having been a cast into the Kenti's play, Imama and the Lord, he did not look back at the time. Over years, he would be involved in many plays that he would wrote and co-wrote, such as Asinamali, Bowoza Albert, Bosarafina, Magic at 4 AM, and many others. The common thread of all these plays and the production is that he told stories of people gallantly resisting the unjust system and struggling to gain freedom in what became known as the protest theater. Of all his plays, Abo Sarafina would become a jewel in the glittering crown of his repertoire after he wowed audiences all over the world. And he created a powerful platform of telling our South African story of resilience against apartheid on the global stage. The tour de force would go to enjoy several of uninterrupted runs on the Broadway in the United States of America as the achievement that was unprecedented at that time. As a result of his outstanding contribution, we saw Madlogovu at the Globe with his body of arts. He won numerous awards and nominations, including the Tony Awards for Asina Mali and Sarafina, and was inducted in the New York Wall of Fame. Grammy Award nomination, and in 2016, on the 9th of May, that was declared, and Ubabu Duman Ndlovu and Mbongeni Ngema there at the Harlem. And we've heard even during the memorial service how the 9th of May is celebrated in Harlem as the day of Ubabu Ngema. And alongside the name of Ubaba Ngema, siyabona nala South Africa, nala eThekwini, igama lakababa Ngema libhaliwe laphaya emnyango wase City Hall khona la eThekwini, alongside igama labaholi abafana nabo Nelson Mandela, abo Oliver Tambo, abo Miriam Makeba nabanye abaningi. There are many other honors for Madlogovu, including his transformation from an abuser of women to speaking against gender-based violence, which was recognized in many other platforms, including the Gauteng Social Development that also through their 365 Men's Award recognized the work that was being done by Madlogovu on the gender-based violence. I do want to say to all of us here, fellow mourners, that artists are the embodiment and the aspirations of our people. Then Dr. Ngema was a prophet because he reaffirmed our collective hope through music that freedom was indeed coming tomorrow. Madlogovu was also a workaholic and had exceptional work ethic. Those who worked with him would tell you that he was a hard-to-please a disciplinarian who led by example, by being efficient and expecting nothing less from those in the slog with him. It was not uncommon to find him bereaving away until the wee hours of the morning, marking the magic in the process. As we honor the memory of our icon, Ubaba Ngema, we remember his humanity, his generosity, the spirit of his willingness to assist others without expecting anything back. We've seen and we've heard many other artists that he was uplifting. But more than anything, while his passing has left us broken, we need to thank the Almighty for his life. We need to celebrate for what Mbongeni was to us as humanity. We pay homage in his life well lived. We need to ensure that we pick up the spear and continue where he left off. And I also want to add my voice to the renaming minister of the Playhouse, to Mbongeni Ngema.
All right, Premier of KwaZulu-Natal at the funeral service of Mbongeni Ngema there, just eulogizing him and talking about his many achievements.